somebody may think, okay, I have stability renting. I have stability renting an apartment. So I have that now. I have a roof over my head. What would you say? Could you define what stability is versus renting an apartment versus home ownership?
Yeah, the first thing that comes to my mind is that that apartment will never be mine. It will never ever be mine, and I can make it the most beautiful, comfortable. It can just be eclectically me, right? And eclectically my son, but it will never be ours.
Wow.
And so now I don't want to sound like one of those ones that's like, well, you'll never own it, because some people, their perception of home ownership, there's no value in that for them, and that's a real thing. But if you are only basing the fact that you don't have value in it yet because of stability's sake, how stable can you be in something that's not yours? How stable can you truly be? And so you're stable.
That's good.
Right? You're stable in your ability to manage your bills and your income. You're stable in that. You can do that anywhere.
Wow.
You're stable in your ability to anticipate what your needs might be and what your needs currently are. You're stable in that.
Yeah.
But you're not stable in something that isn't yours, that you don't have the ability to have control over.
Wow.
And those things can still come up in home ownership, right?
Yeah.
You can get sick and you can lose your job. You can be dismissed from a role, and then your income changes and all these things. If stability is your reason and you're stable in renting, but you have an openness to home ownership, you got to define what really is stability. You're stable in supporting what you have going on.
Yeah.
You can do that in a home, right?
Yes.
And then I would say this, look at what you're spending. Decide, is this necessary for me? Right? We make sacrifices all the time. You just became a father.
Yes.
And so, you know, before I had my son, I loved bags and purses and shoes and jewelry and hats and accessories and nails, and I loved all those things.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to lose who I was in those things, but my priorities needed to shift. Right? I needed to make room for my son. I needed to make room to be able to care for him properly.
I've seen people, they may say, oh, the home buying process is too tedious or too difficult or it's too stressful. One thing that you mentioned was, hey, it's about time I got in the car, the home that I seen was already under contract. And we just spoke about motivation. How did you continue to keep going? Because some people just say, hey, well, I don't like the market right now, so I'm just going to wait. What kept you going, even though you were coming up against those, I guess, safe to say, obstacles?
Yeah.
How did you keep going?
I believed that it was for me. Right? I'm gonna tie this back to carrying my son. I was pregnant. He was there.
Yeah.
But then my body and all these other factors and all these other things started to come and say, you can't have this. You can't have him. This is a figment, or this is about to end horribly.
Yeah.
But he was there. I was carrying him. I had connected to the fact that this is a reality.
Yes.
This is real for me. I can have this.
Yes.
Right? And so in those lowest times of the process, and there were some because it was just disappointing to not get what you thought you wanted. In those lowest times, I had to hold on to the fact that it's there. It's out there for me. This just isn't the one, right? This just isn't the one. And for me, faith is, I believe no matter what I'm going through. I believe no matter what all the others have to say about it. I believe and I trust that this is for me. So that was the motivation to say, okay, do the one next thing today. You can't do much else because you're feeling some type of way. But just do one thing today that's going to propel you even further or closer to what it is that you say that you want. I'll also say this. Start now if you haven't already. Become a good bookkeeper for yourself. Everything's online now, right? Your bank statements, you can go back to however many bank statements as you want in your banking app. You can see what you're spending. You know, you have access at your fingertips constantly. I have an iPhone, so what I do is I pull folders and I'll pull documents, I'll download the files that are like present, like let's just say 3 years is a good place to start, right? And I'll put into a file I have a file that's called my future. I have a file that's called my finances. I have a file that's called my son's future, right? I have a file that's called fun stuff. And so I keep in those files documents that are important for whatever that goal is.
Yeah.
So start getting used to that, because when you get to the point where a lender is ready to get into, business with you, they're going to want to see all your financials.
Talk about
They're
it.
going to see how you spend. I mean, they go through it with a fine tooth comb. And I had to do this for the past 2 years, right? I keep my bank statements. I had to have those for the past 3 months at the point of closing. So go ahead, right? If you're the person who gets some in the mail and you're like, okay, I took care of that.
Yeah.
Maybe not. Maybe take a picture of it, put it in that file on your phone. Or if you are someone who likes the paper, go put it up in a folder. And so those are the things you also need to do, because what you don't want to do is do all this work with your credit, do all this work with, your perspective and your mindset, and then that's taken care of. But then you don't know how to give these folks what they say they need. You can't find them. When did I file? Did I file my taxes? Can't find the tax return. You don't want to do that, because then you're just adding on to the labor of the process, and that can discourage you as well.